The Brothers Karamazov, Book 10, Chapter 1. The first 9 books of the Brothers Karamazov have just covered a few days' time. I don't think even a week. Now, for the first time, we have a passage of time, and so now it's 2 months later after the arrest of Dmitry Karamazov, and the scene completely shifts from the main plot of the novel. In fact, only indirectly is the main plot of the novel even mentioned in its entirety of Book 10. Book 10 is entirely devoted to a side story that only appeared briefly way back in Book 4. So here in Chapter 1, we meet a young man named Kolya, and Kolya reminds me of a J.D. Salinger character, a young man, a 13-year-old boy who's a little bit too smart and a little bit too wise, and because of that, a little bit too arrogant for his 13-year-old self. So there's really 5 relationships that are mentioned here. The relationship with his mother, the relationship with his teacher, the relationship with other kids, relationship with himself, and relationship with his dog. So first of all, his relationship with his mother. His mother is a young widow who is quite an admirable woman character. There's not many strong, they're strong, but there's not many admirable, heroic type women in this novel, and she is an exception. She is a young widow, and she devotes herself to the protection and preservation of her son's life, and so she learns in school along with him, and overall seems like this very devoted, very warm, affectionate, emotional woman who loves her son. And he resents that display of affection, and she takes his resentment of the display of affection as a lack of affection. It's not really; he just doesn't express it in the way that she wants. In the early 2000s, we might call them. They're speaking 2 different love languages, and she's not aware that his love language isn't affection. She's kind of a helicopter mom. Next, his relationship with his teacher. It seems that his dad left him a library of books that some of those weren't appropriate for a 13-year-old boy to have read. Others of them purely academic, and he got some knowledge and information from those books that even his teacher doesn't have, and so he proves his intelligence by stumping his teacher, and in 1 or 2 respects even being smarter than his teacher, and some of the students in the class suspect that he might even be smarter than his teacher. That's sort of the beginning of the chapter, and at the end of the chapter we find out that sort of put these 2 relationships together, that he has a widowed mother and a teacher that he might be smarter than. Then in the end of the chapter, his teacher shows some romantic interest in his mom, and of course this makes young Kolya squeamish and uncomfortable that his teacher would be interested in his mom. Kolya has an interesting relationship with other kids, with his peers. It seems like it's important to him to be older and smarter and thought wiser and more intelligent than his peers, but he also sort of needs their attention and approval, and the story is told of him laying down between train tracks and letting a train pass over him, doing that to show how courageous and tough he is, and having the boys cheer him on for that, and also wanting to be seen in the classroom as smarter, or at least as smart as their teacher. So he seems someone who thinks he's a little bit superior and arrogant young man, superior to his peers, but in fact probably feels a little bit needing of their attention and approval. Now, what about his relationship with himself? Well, he projects this confidence and this intelligence and this wisdom that surpasses his years, but it seems like he has some insecurities. One of them is shown when his mother is upset when she hears that he laid under the train tracks. It says that he burst out crying like a 6-year-old, like a toddler. So it seems like he wants to project this emotionless, wise exterior, but inside he's still just a little boy. He's still just a little child who can burst into tears when he sees his mommy crying over him. And finally, what we know about this young Kolya, he has a strange, now, as we've only read chapter 1, it makes sense as you've finished book 10, but if you've only read chapter 1 of book 10, a strange relationship to this dog. He finds this mangy mutt. He takes care of it, but he hides it away, and he's awfully tough in, he's a strict disciplinarian with this dog. It's really important that he teach this dog to do tricks. And so now we've met Kolya, and his character is going to get fleshed out in the next chapter as we see how he interacts with younger kids, with the staff at the house, and with peasants. But for right now, Kolya is this interesting character, this young man who we'll see later on in book 10 is a mini Ivan in some ways, and in other ways he's a mini Alyosha.